Hi there guys, and welcome to another Octave3D video tutorial. In this video I would like to show you how you can use Octave to place objects on a terrain. So I already have my tool object created, and I've created some categories with some prefabs that I'm going to be using in this video. And in order to place objects on a terrain, you're going to have to activate the Decor Paint placement mode. So this is the only mode that allows you to perform terrain placement. Now this mode works in two ways, single and brush, and in this video we're going to talk about the single mode. If you've watched the introduction video, the one in which I show you how to build a small library environment, you've seen this in action when I placed some bookshelves on the library walls. Now in this video I'm going to use it to place objects on a terrain. So I'm going to be using, in the beginning, I'm going to be using this rock prefab here, and you can see I can just move the mouse, and if I left click I can place an object. And I have this align axis toggle button checked here, which means that the object is going to be aligned with the normal of the terrain surface. And you can change the alignment axis by using this control right here. By default it's set to positive up, which is a really good default value for most models that you're going to be using. But if you're not getting the correct results, you can just change this and see what works with that specific model. Okay, now if I hold down the left mouse button and drag the mouse, you can see that I can place multiple objects at once, and I can control the distance between those objects by using this field right here. Currently it's set to 3. Let's just see what happens if I set it to a really small value, something close to 0. You can see that the objects are really close to each other, which is not what we want. So I'm just gonna set this to 3, the value that was there previously. And that feels just about right. I'm going to skip the align to stroke field that we have here for now, and we're going to talk about that towards the end. For now I just want to talk about the rotation and scale randomization settings. So there may be times when you want to add a little bit of variety by randomizing the rotation and scale of the object placement guide. And let's start with rotation. So if I check this randomize rotation toggle button, I'm going to get some new controls in here which allow me to specify how rotation is randomized along the for the X, Y, and Z global axis, and as well for the placement surface normal. In this particular case, because we're going to be placing objects on a terrain, the placement surface normal is the normal of the terrain surface. Now, in this video, I'm not going to use the X, Y, and Z axis because we're not going to need them, and they work in pretty much the same way as the placement surface normal. So I'm just going to ignore those, and I'm going to make sure that this toggle button here is checked, randomize. And there are two ways to randomize rotation. First one is called random rotation value, which allows you to generate a random rotation value in this interval right here, which is currently set to the 0 to 360 degree range. And you can also use random rotation step, which basically generates a rotation which is a multiple of whatever value is specified here. So in this particular case, it's the step is set to 90 degrees, which means that the possible rotation values can be 0, 90, 180, 270, or 360. But I'm going to use the random rotation value. And now if I click and place an object, you can see that the rotation of the guide is randomized. And I can also do that by dragging the mouse to generate different rotation values for each object that gets placed. Now let's talk about scale randomization. So if I click on this toggle button, I get this scale interval right here, which is currently set to 0.67 and 1.5. So scale values are going to be generated inside this interval, and I'm going to leave it like this. And let's just place some objects. And now you can see that not only the rotation is randomized, but also the scale, which can add a little bit of variety when you need that. Okay, now I'm going to uncheck these because I'm not going to need them anymore, and I would like to start talking about align to stroke. But actually, before I do that, I think I would like to tell you about a really useful hotkey that I think you're going to need to know about it. So you know that you can use the shift key to scale the placement guide, and let's just say that you've been scaling this guide quite a lot At some point you just want to bring the guide to its original scale value. You wanna bring it to its original size. So if I press the O key on the keyboard, the tool will reset the scale of the guide to its original scale. Or the original scale is the scale that the prefab asset had when you assign that prefab to a category. Okay, so this is really useful. You can of course use the undo functionality to undo a scale operation. So if I scale it and then undo, it's gonna bring it back. But if you perform multiple scales, then you're gonna have to undo multiple times until you bring it back to what it was initially. So this is why the O key is useful. Okay, now I'm just gonna delete those, and let's talk about this align to stroke functionality. Let's just say that I want to build a fence that goes along in this direction, along this path right here, and I can just do that, you know, normally by rotating this object manually and placing it piece by piece. But with align to stroke we can do it much faster. So I'm going to check this, and then I'm going to activate one of the corner pivot points, because I'm gonna go in this direction, and I'm just gonna left click and drag the mouse, and you can see that I get this really nice result. And let's just do the same in this on this side. So the objects are going to follow the direction of the mouse cursor, and this is incredibly useful. One thing to note here is that there's actually two things. So the first thing is that this functionality is heavily dependent on the speed of the mouse movement. Yeah, so if you move the mouse quite rapidly, then there's going to be gaps between those objects. But if you move it at a reasonable speed, then you're going to get something like this. And secondly, the pivot points. So when you're using this align to stroke functionality, I highly recommend that you use the one of the corner pivot points that it's closest to the initial direction in which you want to move the guide. I would avoid using the center pivot point for objects like fences, objects that are basically thin, because it doesn't really give good results. The center pivot point might be useful when you're working with cube objects or something like that. Yeah, so just keep this in mind when you're working with the align to stroke functionality. Okay, now let's just place some lamps. So I'm gonna switch to my signs and lamps category, and I'm gonna use this prefab. Let's rotate it, and look what's happening here. So I would like to place this prefab behind the fence, and I can do that because I'm using the one of the corner pivot points, and if I drag it towards this in this direction, I can easily do that. But let's just say that I want this lamp to sit a little bit further away from the fence. If I move the mouse cursor over the fence, you can see that the tool will attempt to place the object on the fence, because that's how Decor Paint placement mode works. It's gonna place objects on the terrain or on the mesh surfaces of other objects. And in this case I don't want to have to worry about that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to selection mode by pressing the S key on the keyboard. I'm going to select one of these objects, then I'm gonna press the G key on the keyboard to select all the fence objects, and then I'm gonna press this button here, assign selection to Decor Paint mask. And now these fence objects are gonna be ignored. When I hover them with the mouse cursor, the tool will ignore them, and now I can just safely place those lamps without having to worry of accidentally placing them on the fence. Okay, one right here, another one here, and let's also take care of this other side. Okay, let's just put another one here. I'm kind of in the same mind state that I was when I was building the presentation video, so it's it looks kind of similar if you've watched that part. Okay, and you can also place then some, some grass. This, and some flowers if you wish. So you can basically decorate this however you want. Okay, that's it for this video. In the next video, we're gonna take a look at the brush mode. Okay, bye bye.